Yo, what's good, everybody? Brent here. Happy New Year's Eve to everybody. I know some places it's probably already New Year's, I think, right? Um, hope everybody is having, like I said, it's Wednesday, December 31st. Hope everybody's having an amazing week. Hope everybody had a great Christmas for everybody celebrated. Obviously, these times have been really slow in the markets. It seems like markets, work, everything's just kind of slowed down. It's a time of year where everybody's just kind of chilling. Which again, I say this time and time again is actually playing into the market's favor. Most of these times, when you do get a bounce, it is after a time of boredom. But yeah, I wanted to do this last show today, the last show of the year, kind of earlier on in the day. I know a lot of people or either probably sleeping or celebrating the new year in I don't know what time frame, 12 hours ahead of where I'm at right now. It's 11 a.m. or getting ready for the day. But want to do this last, you know, yearly stream to talk about why I think Bitcoin again is very close to bouncing, whether it be with the final sweep or move up. I want to talk about a few of my 2026 predictions. We'll talk about a few things that went down this year. White Whale absolutely fucking exploded since the last time we did this stream. I think, last time we did this stream, White Whale was at, I mean, maybe just over 10 million, maybe 15 million. Now, obviously, all the way at 61 million. Tweeted about it at about 3 million 3 weeks ago. Obviously, talked about it on every stream. Did multiple, every stream I think I talked about it and came under a million and is now up at 61 million market cap. Like I said, I got in around 3.5, bought a bit on the way down. I remember thinking to myself, I should definitely grab 1% of this, make, round it off to 1%, under a million. But of course, I was busy with holiday shit and didn't pull the trigger. But still pretty happy with my position. And I took 25% off at about 50 something million. And for me, what I'm doing is obviously after a 60x run with very little pullback, we could always see something like this. And we should really expect at some point that we are going to get a 50-60% pullback. But just like we've seen on these great coins, that's actually healthy. USDUC, all these good coins that have run this year, there's going to be big moves, but oftentimes they'll see 30, 40, 50% corrections before recovering within a few days. So I personally would not be entering White Whale right here, but I got to understand, like I was saying, which we'll go over here in a second, I do think Bitcoin does bounce here in the coming weeks, which could add more fuel to the fire for White Whale. And we're seeing coins like FKH also run, Flying Ketamine Horse, which is another one that my boy Donnie here, who I just connected with recently, told me about at 2 million in the DMs. Shout out to him. This is another example, 2 million to 18 million now, almost a 10x. I have not taken any profits off of this yet, but I do plan on it here shortly, just by my rules. But this is another example, guys. FKH, White Whale. What do we have here? What's it called? Kermit is now running too right at all-time highs. These are coins that, if you would have gotten in the last few weeks, you'd be up 3 or 4 or 5x. But most importantly, I think this is what this is telling us is that we're seeing follow through on a lot of these lower cap coins for the first time in months. And I think this is important because oftentimes at these big bottoms, we will see low caps start to have follow through just like this. This is oftentimes a sign we'll see at major bottoms for Bitcoin and the whole market. So while it's, the gains have been nice on these, and I'm definitely, I advise everybody take profits if you're up. I think this is a sign that potentially the market could be making a comeback. Again, it's not 100% foolproof, but Bitcoin, like I said, this usually happens near these bottoms. But before we get into it, guys, if you guys could please like, comment, share, retweet, all of that good stuff. I appreciate you spending your New Year's Eve, this bit of time with me. I'm going to be on here for probably about an hour. Make it short and sweet. But what's up, Affinity? What's up, Henry? What is up, 808? I hope everybody, what's up, MKT? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. What's up, Venom? Um, if you guys have any comments, questions, chart requests you want me to look at as well, leave that in the chat. I'll be looking at it. And yeah, let's go ahead and start with Bitcoin, guys. Higher time frames. It's boring. I talk about this, all the time. It's the same. It's the same thing, guys. I've made several tweets and posts about this concept, and it's because it's what matters, and it's um, what we see at the end of every one of these corrections, or what we see at any type of local bottom, is multiple weeks of consolidation. For those of you who don't know, consolidation is pretty self-explanatory. It's when a low is formed, we bounce and we hold above that low, or essentially chop above that low, whether it be like this, like we saw in April, where we got a sweep, or it holds above it like a higher low or a double bottom. This is what we see at the end of every correction, or at every bottom, right? Is multiple weeks of consolidation. Like I'm showing you guys here in April, March to April. That's what ended the last, tariff war correction. Remember when we sent back to all-time highs here in July? Same thing here in July through September of 2024. Bitcoin held a low, aka consolidated above 53K for 2 months before ascending to all-time highs. What have we seen here for Bitcoin the last few months? And what I think a lot of people are mistaken. You see all over the timeline, people are like, what the fuck is this price action, right? It's just like, obviously you zoom in on the 15-minute chart, it's just a bunch of chop. It's like, what the hell is this? But if you zoom out on the higher time frames, which I suggest everybody does, this is where the nuggets, like the alpha, the good information that you're actually going to be able to use, is on the higher time frames, not zoomed in on the 15-minute chart, right? So like what you see on the higher time frames is all this chop that everybody's posting. What it really is consolidation on the higher time frames, again, which I showed you guys, marks the bottom of every one of these corrections, right? So this doesn't mean that just because we're consolidating here, that's 100% going to go to all-time high or going to bounce here. But if we look at probabilities of every time Bitcoin, after it's corrected 20 to 30%, which is what we're in now, and it's consolidated for multiple months, every time it's at least bounced, right? Like I said, here, even here, we consolidated Bitcoin from December to January, about 6 to 7 weeks. We swept a low, and then what happened? We went to all-time highs. Same thing here in 2023. It's time and time again, we see the same thing play out where Bitcoin corrects 20 to 30%, and then we get at least a bounce, right? Now, every bounce so far in this, sorry guys, I was pulling something out. Every bounce so far during this bull market that like I've said, after consolidation, has led to all-time highs, right? Now, could this time be different? This likely bounce that I think we're going to get into probably into early next year, could it be different? And this bounce, instead of going back to all-time highs, actually just peters out and takes us down one more time? 100% that could happen, right? I don't think that's the most likely scenario. I'll tell you why here in a second, but I'm completely open to that possibility, right? And that's in fact what happened in 2022 here. If you guys can see here, Bitcoin came down and topped out in 2021 November. It topped out in November. And then what did it do here in February of 2022? It bounced back to this 200 red moving average, right? The 200 moving average. But guess what? It failed to break. Instead of breaking above and going back to all-time highs, it failed to break, and then we went down for another 9 months, whatever this was. Now, could that happen here? 100%. Like I'm completely open to that possibility. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's likely to happen is that Bitcoin, just like we saw here, and here, goes back to all-time highs and takes us to new all-time highs sometime in early 2026. And that's because everything outside of price action is extremely bullish. I know people are talking about the Russia, stuff going on in Russia and Ukraine and Venezuela and potentially Taiwan invading China. But other than the Venezuela thing, which is happening right now, that's real. These other threats are not anything new. We've been dealing with Israel, Palestine, Ukraine, Russia, China, Taiwan for years. These are things that have always been a possibility. And of course, any of those things can happen. but chances are they're not. And then if we look at everything else, the fundamentals, I'm talking about the regulatory clarity that's coming with the Clarity Act, that's going to allow people to build in crypto and do cool shit that they may have not able to do as far as building wise. You're talking about the institutional adoption. ETFs are still sprouting out for all these different altcoins. Bitcoin, the institutional adoption is still growing. You have macro, with which we're still looking like we're cutting rates right now with nothing breaking, which is bullish, and then risk assets, which of course can come down at any time, but they're at all time highs. The S&P 500 is all time high. So if you put all of those things into account, and then you look at pretty much 4 or 5 of those things that I named are bullish, mild to like very bullish right now, and then you look at price action, which very potentially, like I said, could be forming a bottom. I think it's very good chance that if we do get that bounce, that it could take us all back to all-time highs, despite what everybody's thinking, despite the despair and everybody down bad and thinking we're for sure in a bear. Now, like I said here in the title, how we could play either side of this thing, right? Bear or move to all-time highs. What I think's coming, guys, is a bounce either way. Like I said, every single time that Bitcoin has come down 20 to 30% and then consolidated for 3+ weeks. Again, we've been consolidating above 81K for 6 weeks. Every time that's happened, it's led to a big bounce. So I think that's my base case. I think there's nothing pointing against a big bounce coming from here. And again, we want to see a close above 93K to confirm that. But I think a big bounce is coming. Once that happens, what I'm looking at from there to confirm whether we're seeing a 2021, 2022 type bear market or a bounce to all-time highs that I'm still leaning towards is one thing. How Bitcoin performs, or how it behaves as it approaches this 200 red moving average on the daily. And if you want to set this up yourself, you can go to indicators, type in moving average, make sure it's the simple moving average, and then you type in the 200. And again, Bitcoin 2022 failed to break above the 200 moving average and then broke down another 75% over 9 months. Now, I don't think we break down 75%. I think we're in a different world than 2021. We have institutions, regulatory clarity, all these things that I named, so that even if we do roll over one more time, I don't think Bitcoin's going to be seeing an 80-90% drawdown like we saw down here. I think it'd be more of a 50-60%. Maybe we go into the 70s or the 60s. Either way, 200 moving average is really what I'm looking at on this next bounce. If Bitcoin slices right through the 200 moving average like it has in the past few years, then we're good to go. I think we go back to all-time highs, 150K, probably way fucking higher. But if we do, let's say, chop up to this 200 moving average, and instead of breaking above it, we fail to break it, maybe at 100, 102, 103. That's where I have a lot of my take profits on the long that I'm in on ETH, which we'll show in a second. But yeah, that's what we got to see is how it performs at the 200 moving average. But I'm still leaning about 70, 80% if I had to put a number on it, that we go to all-time highs. And in fact, I think the sentiment that we're seeing just extremely getting on one side of the boat is actually bullish, because that usually happens at these bottoms. You think back to April, how many people, if you would have told somebody, because I was doing it, like I was talking on the timeline bullish during that time. If you would have told people, oh, we're gonna see all-time highs 3 months from now, back in April, they would have said, why? We're in a fucking tariff war, all these different reasons why. But again, the regulatory stuff, all the institutional stuff, everything sent Bitcoin back to all-time highs. I think that's likely to happen again. So let me know what you guys think in the chat. I want to take this time again to do a little bit of a reset. If you're hopping in and spending your New Year's with me, I appreciate you. Hope everybody has a good time. Either last night, if it is the New Year's, I don't even know. It's actually world global clock right now. The world clock. I want to see what time it is in different places right now, actually. What's up? Yeah, quote tweet. Yeah. London right now, it is 7:14 p.m. So it is 8 hours ahead, right? So London's about to be New Year's in a couple hours. Tokyo, it is 4 a.m. So happy New Year's to anybody in Tokyo. I'm sure most people are fucking sleeping. Um, but yeah, let's Tokyo. Where else? But yeah, it looks like Europe and stuff is still coming up to the new year, so a lot of people are probably out partying and shit. So we're gonna go over a few more charts. Gonna talk about a few predictions that I have for 2026, and all that good stuff. If you have any comments, questions, anything, I'll check the chat throughout. But um, yeah, Bitcoin. I think we see a bounce from there. Got to see how we perform with the 200 moving average. Same thing with ETH. I'm actually long ETH right now with an average entry of about, I think, 29, low 29s. So I'm at about break even. I think the fact that ETH has been holding this low, this mini low at 2,900, and is kind of chopping up towards that, I think is very likely going to lead to maybe as early as tomorrow, the next few days, if not in the next few weeks, that bounce, probably straight from here. Usually, when you consolidate and form a mini base here, you're not going to take out this low. I think it's probably 2,700 may not get touched before we get this bounce. But just like I said with Bitcoin, I don't think I mentioned it actually, is that I do think we do bounce from here because of this low that we've been consolidating since 16 days above 85,000. But I'm totally open and welcome to some type of sweep that takes us under one more time and then goes up. That's what we saw in April. It looked like in here in April we were consolidating above it just like we are now, and then we got that final sweep. So if that happens, I would personally just be adding to my longs, be just continuing to DCA the altcoins that I've been doing, and then you know uh, be expecting a bounce. Again, I'm going to take some profits on the way up if we do get this bounce, because it's very possible that we do roll over one more time. So yeah, and just to play devil's advocate, I'm very confident in this setup because, again, 100% since this bull market started, and really in the past bull markets too, that when bear market, when Bitcoin comes down 20 to 30% and then consolidates for multiple weeks, it usually leads to at least a 10-20% bounce. And like I said, every other time it's led to all-time highs. So is this time different? We shall see. But I do think we get a bounce here in the next few weeks. Same thing with Sol, guys. Sol is actually even more of a clear setup. If we go to the lower time frames, I have a lot of this circled because let me delete this, but it is actually Sol swept this low here at 122 multiple times, and it's kind of chopping right above it, which again is kind of just another form of consolidation. Again, for 5 or 6 weeks, we could definitely break down here, but I think odds are that we bounce and that Sol pushes back closer to 200 before it tells us, decides. Again, the 200 moving average for Sol is all the way up at 175. So we got to see how it performs as it, or behaves as it approaches 175. If it does something like this and trades up to it, but then doesn't break and then comes down, definitely possible. But I still think, just like Bitcoin and ETH, what's likely to happen is what happened here, and here. And here is that every time it crosses back above the 200 moving average, we go to all-time highs. So what I see Sol as is actually an inverse head and shoulders on the higher time frames. I know this drawing looks absolutely crazy out of context. No, I'm just playing. But fucking what I see Sol as actually is an inverse head and shoulders on the higher time frame if we don't take out this 105 low, right? We have the shoulder, head, and then shoulder if it doesn't take out this low. And then if it were to send to all-time highs, this would play out and complete the inverse head and shoulders on the higher time frames, which again is just a bottom pattern that we see manifest. These bottoms manifest in the higher time frames. Before I move on from trading view and these charts and move on to some 2026 predictions, it does seem like the S&P 500 is pulling back a bit. And you'll hear me say this a lot. You really, really got to be aware and watch how price reacts at major multi-month highs. Just like I talked to you about, said on Bitcoin, you want to multi-month corrections. again, 2-month corrections like we're in now, are very important. You want to see how price reacts off there. Oftentimes it's a bottom or a top. It's the S&P 500. The fact that it has been technically consolidating uh, below 6,800 for a couple months now. The question is, does the S&P 500 break above the all-time high here and definitively break above and head into the 7,000s from here in the next few weeks? Or does it potentially, you know, play around here for a bit, show some hesitance, and then maybe give us a move down? It's always possible. Again, when we're at these all-time highs, we have to see how price reacts. I think, again, what's most likely to happen is that the S&P 500, due to this mini pullback, is going to push higher and probably definitively break above. But let's just say it's here a week or two from now and we're just consolidating below 69. I could see the scenario where we play down there, and then that could push crypto lower, but I don't think that's likely. And again, I'm just going to be real. If we were, this is a 2 or 3 month high. If we were to break down here and then actually break below 6,500, that could lead to a much bigger reversal. But again, I think what's most likely to happen is we're just going to break above 69 and break above 69 and just go to 7. Um, but let's see here. But yeah, reversal. Yeah, I just think this is the least likely scenario, but we do have to pay attention. If we were to come back down into like 6,7, yeah, if we were to come back down into 6,7, 6,700, then yeah, it could go lower. But I think what's most likely to happen is the next few weeks, just like crypto, that the S&P 500 breaks this high and heads higher. DXY is interesting. Again, dollar index. Usually during bear markets, what do we see? Like the last bear market we saw, guys, when Bitcoin bottomed out in November of 2020. Sorry, somebody texted me. When Bitcoin bottomed out in November, I'm sorry, when Bitcoin topped out in November of 2020, around here, what did we see the DXY, the dollar, do? It absolutely shot up. The S&P 500 came down a bunch. We were in a kind of a macro bear market too. They were raising rates, and what did we see? The dollar index absolutely flew. But everybody's scared about a bear market now. But what is the DXY doing? It's coming down, guys. And of course, it could start moving up at any time. But I think what's most likely to happen is that the dollar is going to break below 96 and confirm an impulse lower into the 90s, just like we saw last bull market or in 2021 when we moved down heavy about 10 or 15 points. I think we're going to get something similar than that in 2026, 2027 potentially. And at that point, we might be looking at a bottom on the DXY. But yeah, this is just another sign pointing that we aren't in that quote unquote bear market that everyone is scared of, because we see the opposite most of the time during bear markets is the DXY is just moving up impulsively. This time it's moving down. And the last thing I want to look at is Bitcoin dominance. Same kind of thing. Bitcoin dominance usually is either going sideways or what does it do? What did it do in 2021 when we bottomed out? It bounces, pretty much goes up. But what are we seeing now? The Bitcoin dominance has actually been coming down for the last 5 or 6 months, and I think is actually going to move lower, confirming that we're have a change of trend back here in June, and I think we're going to continue to the downside in 2026 as well. So I'm just showing you guys a few things that I believe that are out of the ordinary, that are actually showing opposite readings of what we normally see during bear markets, real bear markets, and I think that's something to note. And yeah, just other reasons leading to me to think that this bounce that we're going to get here very likely takes us back to all-time highs, at least on Bitcoin and a lot of other stuff. I'm gonna look at the chat now. I'm kind of slacking. Hugo, what's up, brother? Could you share 10 to 15 spot coins that you love, except Pump, ETH, BNB, and Sol? For sure. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm actually gonna quote tweet or retweet the stream. 1 second. But yeah, I'll definitely do that for you, brother. Quote. Did it? 1 Let's see. But yeah, that's crazy. I didn't even realize in England and Europe, most of the time it's literally about to hit midnight in 30 minutes. So I'm sure most of the people here, most of the people on right now are in the US, or Asia's asleep too. So it's really only the US that's here. Yo, we're live. Um, okay, perfect. But before I go on, too, guys, the streams are great. We're still averaging, concurrent viewers like 100, close to 100, give or take. Sometimes like 90, sometimes 120 concurrent viewers. But the clips have actually been doing pretty good on TikTok lately, which I'm happy about. It's been a bit of a challenge at first. Like I'm a faceless, um, obviously creator for now. Um, in 2026, that's going to be a big thing. Definitely going to, you know, show the face and all that good stuff. But for now, TikTok clips have actually been doing really well, um, and hitting a couple thousand views. Consistently doing better at this time, which I'm really happy about. So if you guys could also, if you guys are all on TikTok or Instagram, if you could definitely shoot me a follow at Brent Trades. Um, Across the board, I think Instagram is 1S, but um, yeah, if you guys could shoot me a follow, again, really making an effort in 2026 to put up content on all different platforms. I think there's a culture in crypto, and except crypto Twitter, there's just a culture of like crypto is just like pump and dumps and scams and all that stuff. But I do think crypto and on-chain trading and all this different stuff, collecting and all this different stuff is going to get huge. And I think the perception will change around it. I think it just going to take a few solid people. So just trying to put content out there, and prove that you don't need to trade like fucking 20 coins a week, or you don't need to be shilling bullshit like to have success in crypto. And if you guys could shoot me a follow, I'll shoot you a follow back, and all that good stuff. So, but let's see chat. Anything in the chat? I got a few chatters. Yeah, I'll answer your question, Venom. My bad, brother. I'll get you that right now. Brett, I know you've never leveraged and chop, but will you have leverage plays once? Yeah, that's a great question, Sol Lebowski. I hope you're still here. I'm actually long Bitcoin right now, or long ETH, and considering getting into a Sol long position as well. The way that I play long leverage is I don't. I know most people when they're trading leverage is they're trading these short term moves, which I mean, there's a lot of volatility, or there's a lot of potential to do these kind of things, I guess, on the lower time frames when stuff is more, you know, um, volatile and is moving more. But you said it. In this times chop, when you're doing the lower time frames, you're probably going to get chopped out. Like there's literally no direction. Like there'll be a day of upside and then a day of downside. And it's just whatever. But for me, the way I play leverage and the way I suggest other people, if they want to take a long term approach and actually use leverage in a reasonable way, is try to target these higher time frame moves. Like for me, I'm not really concerned about the day to day and getting chopped up in this leverage. Is I've just been accumulating a long position after I saw this consolidation start to form for a few weeks. For the last few weeks, I've been accumulating an ETH long position with 10x leverage, giving myself room with a stop under this low, like well under this low, so that even if we swept, I'd be fine. And again, I'm targeting these higher targets. Like I'm targeting my first target, for example, is like 3,600, which is 25% away in price, and my next one's at like 36 and 38. Again, trying to target this higher time frame bounce I think we're going to get. And this is like a definitely a different style of trading because, for example, like only two times have I changed positions. Like I've been in two positions this year. One of them was in this big ETH long. I started at around 1,700, and then added to it about 21, and that was about the best leverage trade of my life, perps trade of my life. And then this, I got stopped out in profit after taking a bunch of profit up here, and got stopped out in profit. And then the second long position, or the second position of the year that I'm started, is at the very end of the year, another long, which again I'm targeting over the next 3 to 6 months, 2 to 3 to 6 months, a move up. And um, uh, somebody texted me over the next 6 months and or the next couple months, and then yeah, that's the higher time frame moves that I'm chasing or I'm targeting, and it's a different game for sure, but it I don't know. I've just found it a lot more lucrative. Prediction for Solana, I think it bounced. I think it bounces. I think Solana bounces with Bitcoin and runs higher. Um, Thoughts on Sui? I think Sui looks good here too. Sorry guys, I'm just looking at something really quick. Nothing. White Whale all performed. Yeah. New Year's in 3.5 hours. Hell yeah. Where are you turning in from? South Africa. Happy New Year. Fuck yeah. Appreciate you guys for being here. Can we look at nothing in USDC? Yeah, let's do it. USDUC actually looks like it's coming out of this channel here too. I like USDUC a lot, despite it being at six mil. Oh shit! Despite it being at 6 mil, coming out really hard. I think USDUC has still a great core community and just a great core community still, and still has like as much participation on the timeline and everything as like a lot of these big meme coins. And I think just like we've seen every time Bitcoin bounces, I think USDUC bounces back with the market and very likely heads back to all time highs eventually. So I still like USDUC. Nothing I haven't really ever bought and not really too tapped in with the community, but looks like it's making its way back to all time highs. That looks really nice. You know, hopefully this follows the same route as White Whale and everything, and moves back towards all time highs. And I expect it probably does, or I mean above all time highs. And I expect it does. I expect it does as I expect it does as Bitcoin probably bounces here to end the year as well, or start the year. I appreciate it, show you. I did see that. What's up, Rojam? How you doing, brother? Um, what's up, John? How you doing? But damn, 2026 though. I'll just go over a few predictions that I put together before we got on the stream here. Let me share my screen. Um, oh no, wrong. Hold on. Am I sharing the whole screen? Let's do entire screen. All right. So, the 2026 predictions again, just quickly that I put together on here. Like I was telling you before, I think Bitcoin bounces in Q1 and very likely sees or pretty likely sees all-time highs sometime during this year, whether that be Q1, Q2, or like I said, if that scenario where we do rollover for 6 to 9 months, for 6 to 9 months longer, or however long it might be, maybe we bounce again, head back into the 70s. I think Bitcoin finds its bottom sometime in 2026, either way, and starts making its way back towards there. But I still think 70-80% that we make a new all time high in Q2, Q1, Q2. Um, I think meme coins obviously aren't actually dead. I think a lot of people are comparing them to NFTs. I think the NFT comparison will be proven wrong, at least in the short term, because I think people are putting meme coins in the same basket as NFTs, which have had one big run in 2021, 2022, and then we've been down only essentially since into 2026. So it had one big run and it's been a winter ever since. Meme coins actually obviously had a runs in 2020, 2021, went through a winter, but over the last 3 years, meme coins have ebbed and flowed. At least the good ones have ebbed and flowed off of what Bitcoin does. So Bitcoin ran in 2023, pulled back in 2024. Meme coins pulled back in 2024. Bitcoin ran in 2024, end of 2024, mid 2024. Meme coins ran with it, pulled back. Same thing. They essentially follow the last few years the trajectory of Bitcoin, right? So obviously, if Bitcoin has topped out and we go lower for the next year, obviously meme coins would be in a winter for that long. But like I'm showing you here, I think instead we probably get a bounce. Meme coins aren't proven to be dead, and in fact, I do think what's likely to happen is that meme coins become, or at least on-chain trading, movement coins become like a phenomenon and get up there with sports betting and some of these other big like speculative um, like trends or whatever. Um, yeah, I think top memes have a big resurgence by the end of the year. The SPX Gigas, MOGs, USDUCs, all that good stuff. Prediction markets become even more popular. I think that's a pretty obvious one. There's obviously going to be periods where they're more popular than others, but I think prediction markets are a technology and thing that are only going to continue to grow. And then I do think if Bitcoin does bounce and goes back to all-time highs, despite what everybody thinks about creator coins, the long-term viability, I don't know. I think there may be something there. I do think, honestly, if you just zoom out, I think everything is going to be tokenized, and everything's going to be given a market. You're going to be able to speculate on everything from events to companies to protocols, and then I think you're going to be able to speculate in own, part of creator coins. Like I think it's just the creators and content, and I don't think the world's ready for it. I don't think it's going to pop out off tomorrow. Like everybody's going to be using Zora tomorrow, but I think essentially owning your content and tokenizing everything is going to be a thing, and I think somebody's gonna pull it off, whether it be um, Zora or any of these other competitors, or like somebody that pops up. And I think Pump is going to go back to all time highs. I think that's the biggest no brainer. If Bitcoin does somehow bounce and go back to all time highs here, Pump is going to rip. I went over it last week. Pump Fund has essentially only ran. Pump Fund only really has ran during a time where Pump Fund essentially was born into a time where Pump Fund volume is at as that was at all time lows. So essentially, hasn't seen a time where Pump Fund volumes were super high, and of course, buybacks. Everybody shits on the buybacks, but what do you think is going to happen when Pump Fund volume, if and when it goes back to all time highs or even gets back to half of where it was last year? The buybacks on Pump are going to be crazy. Plus, demand. I think buybacks don't matter, the supply getting lesser if demand isn't there. So when demand is back and Pump Fund volume is pumping, there's a bunch of revenue for them to buy and sell the Pump token, or I'm sorry, to do buybacks and burns. I think that's going to contribute to a huge pump on Pump and a move back to all-time highs. This looks really nasty, but this is a 75% move. We've seen 75 coins move down 75%. Even ETH moved down 75% and is moving back to all-time highs, a few years later. So I think Pump has a big resurgence into next year, and I think Pump Fun is going to shock the world. In my last prediction, I think Pump Fun volume hits all time highs again. I just don't think that meme coins or on chain trading have seen their max peak. And I think the world is actually primed and ready with the convergence of speculation and gambling being so big in the culture, and then crypto and digital wallets and blockchain just becoming so big in the mainstream with institutions. I think those two things are going to combine to where on-chain trading, meme coins, whatever you want to call it, who knows what the name of it is. I think on-chain trading, movement coins, those are kind of bigger, better descriptions of these things. But uh but I think they're gonna become cultural phenomenons up there with sports betting and all that. And I think 2026, 2027 is where it has a good shot at happening, to be honest. So, and then I forgot to add one more. I think there's going to be in the next year. I think there's going to be some type of mainstream catalyst for NFTs, whether that be Rolex, fucking PSA, all these different, all these different PSA, all these different PSA. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. PSA, Rolex, any of these different companies that can and will use NFTs to verify or authenticate products, shoes, Nike in the future. You know, I think there's going to be some type of mainstream catalyst for NFT where there be another big artist launching a project or something that's going to spark up demand for NFTs. And because we saw these mini runs on NFTs the last few years that just fizzled out because they were NFT Web3 only things. We need some type of mainstream catalyst that gets people outside of this small crypto bubble to be buying NFTs. And it could be a number of things. It could be GTA 6 having NFTs in it. Probably isn't going to happen. But something like that, a big company, Nike, Rolex, someone using NFT technology, I think that sparks some kind of NFT wave again at some point. Whether that takes these things back to all time highs and we get some kind of NFT season or not, I don't know. But I think we are going to get some type of NFT catalyst in 2026. Let me know what you guys think of that. BMCs, what's up, everybody? Conductor, appreciate you for sharing. What metas do you think will be strong in 2026 for memes? I think movement coins are the ones to bet on. The coins where the people have a strong movement, SPX, Giga, MOG, ticker Bitcoin, USDUC. There's several other ones, and those are the ones that are going to run and the ones that usually come out of these ones. So, and then there'll be a select few like singular memes too. You know that Popcat and some of these other ones that'll bounce back. But my bet is on the movement coins. What do you think of Nothing? We went over Nothing a second ago. I think Nothing looks really good and probably continues, especially if Bitcoin is to bounce too. Probably continues back to all time highs or well over all time highs. Shout out to Mirage. I see you, homie. You just like that. I don't know if you're watching, but shout out to Mirage. My bad. Just got here. G, all good squeeze. I know a lot of people do. Like Europe, it's about to hit. A lot of people working in the U.S. Europe is about to hit. I think New Year's is about to hit in London, and Tokyo already hit New Year's. Oh no, wait, I'm tripping. No, wait, no, I'm right. Never mind. Thursday. Yeah. Okay. I thought it was. Yeah. Um, but yeah, those are the predictions. I think the market is probably going to be pretty slow. Sometimes we pop off January 1st. Sometimes it's pretty slow into January, but I'm pretty confident that in the next couple weeks we will start to get a bounce, whether it be a sweep of the low the one more time or moves higher. I do think we bounced all time highs or at least we bounce above 3,300, 3,400 ETH, 93K Bitcoin in the next few weeks. What do you think of Kabuto? Yeah, Kabuto. I think I haven't looked at it in like maybe a week. Never bought into Kabuto, but oh wow, it's really only at 1 million. I thought it was a way higher market cap than that. It really only ran to 8 million. That's pretty crazy, guys. I would have thought it ran to like at least 30, 40. But I will say it looks pretty good on the higher time frames. Looks pretty good on the higher time frames, guys. Especially with this consolidation. I think it's very like what it's probably going to do is chop and then move back to all time highs. If I had to guess, Kabuto King. I don't know. It's with these like singular trends, which could continue on, but also could fizzle out at any time. It gets tricky, but it does seem there's like an actual community around the coin, and Kabuto King does seem. I saw him tweet the other day that he thinks 2026 is going to be crazy for Pokemon and all this stuff. So we'll see. Coin looks good though as far as the charts. This would kind of be the best case scenario for Kabuto. Guys, I'm gonna get off here in about 5 or ish minutes and hit the gym. But it's already January 1st here in the Philippines. Hell yeah, brother! I appreciate you for being here. Thoughts on Minor? I'll look at Minor for you. Chill House looks like it's moving similar to Wojak. Fuck Minor. What do you think? Yeah, let's look at Minor. um, so Minor actually looks really nice here too. We want to see it clear above two mil, but it looks really good. Already coming kind of really doing that. Came out of the correction that was in, doing another mini correction, then also impulsing up. If we see it clear above 2 mil, it's very likely going to go back to all time highs. I think. Obviously, a meme that's been around for a long time, but it looks pretty good. Thanks for the leverage info, bro. When do we start leaving moonbags? I don't know. For me, for these other coins like FKH and Kerman and White Whale, I'm leaving moonbags because I do think that even though I'm only taking 25% on a few of them, and even if I do take more, I will leave a moonbag because I do think the overall market probably bounces soon. What's my New Year's resolution? Just to continue to get better in every one of those facets that you named. Obviously, the last year has been really good. Despite the market being down, there's been a lot of opportunities in USDUC and Pengu and SPX and White Whale and all these other ones. But continue to get better physically. This is like the first year in 2025 where I consistently went to the gym the entire year, spanning back to last August, without really stopping for more than like a week. And so that's been good. Going to continue on with that. Um, and mental, all that good stuff. Yeah, just continue to get better in all those facets. What about you, Soul Lebowski? Um, but yeah, guys, I just wanted to get on here for the final stream. I know people in England and fucking UK and Europe, a lot of places are already. Is it in Europe? In some places in Europe, it's already. Um, let's see, the Warsaw, it's 849. Yeah, see, like all these places in Europe. Um, Lima, what is this? Mon. Let's see. Yeah, all these places, Jerusalem, went. Yeah, it seems like places pretty much everywhere. It's about to turn midnight in the next couple hours. So if you're somehow from one of these countries that is about to turn New Year, you're about to go out. Yeah, Ireland at 7:49. Uh, Either way, whatever time it is in the world, I hope everybody has an amazing, um, New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. I will be back here on Friday. Usually I do Tuesday. I didn't stream yesterday, but Tuesdays and Fridays. But definitely be back Friday at 11:30 a.m. PST. Hopefully we get a bounce by then. But either way, guys, I hope everybody has a great rest of your year. I appreciate everybody for spending 2025 with me on these streams and on Twitter. Gotten to know a lot of you, but excited to get to know a lot more of you heading into 2026. Either way, be safe if you've yet to go out or you're out right now or whatever the fuck. Be safe, and I will see you guys. Talk to you guys on Friday. Peace.